Just being worldly and having that sense of the world is bigger than Adelaide and Australia. And I find I get a lot of inspiration from other businesses just by looking around about what people are doing out there. I tend to, even on holidays, kind of research the local market, what kind of legal services they're offering in divorce, and really just use any opportunity to sort of bury myself in that local environment and what I could learn and bring back.
Welcome to The Little Black Book, a podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs who provide their first-hand experiences to help others learn and grow. This podcast is brought to you by Altitude Advisory. Altitude Advisory is a modern business advisory firm helping business owners build a better business for a better life. In this episode of The Little Black Book, I'm joined by Rose Cocchiaro. Rose is the founder and managing director of Resolve Divorce. Rose founded Resolve as she was compelled to right the wrongs she witnessed from years of litigation and wanted to provide a resolution-focused approach to divorce that nurtures the overall well-being and personal growth of people and their families. She believes in supporting the community, demand more from their legal experience during divorce, and is determined to disrupt the legal industry to promote social change. As a multi-award finalist of many prestigious awards categories, including a finalist in the 2019 Innovator of the Year at the Women in Law Awards, 2018 Telstra Business Awards Emerging and Energised, and a leading family law firm in the Doyle's Guide 2017, 18 and 19, Rose and Resolve Divorce have been acknowledged and celebrated for their innovative and non-traditionalist customer-centric approach to the practice of family law. In this episode, Rose talks about how growing up in a family of doctors taught her the importance of hard work and established a desire to help others. She discussed how she was challenged by the traditional legal models and how that created the desire to establish a business that worked in a different way. She talks about the importance of branding and staying inside a narrow niche of expertise and how both those elements have helped the business grow. She also shares the importance of her referral relationships and how she nurtures those as part of her strategy.
Hi, I'm Rose from Resolve Divorce. Thanks for joining us on the Little Black Book podcast.
Favourite movie of all time?
So this one was a tricky one for me to think about, and I've come up with it's anything soppy romance and just mindless drama, like nothing too serious. But when I've really given it some thought around how this might be, a movie that's kind of I think back to, and it might have made an influence, was Legally Blonde.
Okay.
And I say that sort of giving myself a hard time as well, because insofar as I think what it does is proves that women can still be feminine and really kick ass in a male-dominated industry. And when I think about law, it is a highly male-dominated industry. And to really do something brave and break boundaries and sort of do something non-conventional, it's not something that's often done. And so that's a movie about like over dramatization and what have you, but she's standing up tradition. She's out of the box. She's what you see is what you get. This is me, and she does a good job out of it.
So is Reese Witherspoon a bit of a favourite actress for you then, or
not? Look, not particularly. I can't really think of something else that she's done that I think is amazing. But I think she did a pretty good job in that movie, and it's just it's one of those feel good movies, and it's definitely something that I've got my daughter watching.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
What about a book that, as a child or a young adult, that you read that had a real influence on you, and why?
Yeah, I think older adult, biggest book is Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yep.
I pretty well think most of your listeners have probably read that book.
Yep.
But it's a pretty cool book just about, how to be entrepreneurial and just really how to just take some risks and get on with it and sort of and lays out the lay of the land.
Yeah.
There's also a book that I've read probably in the last sort of 5 years, Key Person of Influence by Daniel Priestley, and I think that's a really cool book as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. So you're an active reader, are you, or you're an audiobook listener?
I'm an audiobook listener,
Yeah.
absolutely, because there's just it's multitasking. It's going for a run, going for a walk, listening to that, driving, however it might be. Do lots of podcast listening too as well. So really keen to sort of soak up information.
Yeah.
Audiobooks just seem to just plow through them. So
no, it's cool. I mean, I do a lot of travel and stuff like that in the country, and we got an office over on Eyre Peninsula, and I know when I'm driving out seeing clients, just got the books going, you can easily smash through a couple of audio books while you're out driving in the country.
Absolutely.
It doesn't take too long.
Yeah, I mean, because trying to do it at night time after a big day and sorted out the kids and you're finally getting to relax, it's not the kind of time that you want to be delving into a business book. But you totally got to do it.
No, it's an easy way to create long blinks if you're sitting there with a hard copy sitting down after a long day.
Yeah.
What about travel? Has there been a travel experience that you've had that's had a real profound impact on you in either as a young person or as an adult or a parent?
Travel to me is a huge part of what keeps me going. And I speak for a lot of people when I say that the COVID impact has really had an impact on just overseas travel is what I'm talking about. I've done quite a bit and managed a few interstate trips since COVID, but the overseas experiences are really what I think can really help shape an individual. I think back to backpacking when I'd finished uni, and I spent almost a year out just in Europe, just traveling around and doing a whole lot of, I might say, irresponsible things. And I think one thing that has done is just taught you to sort of take some risks, not be afraid of consequences, be a bit brave. And then obviously just being worldly and having that sense of the world is bigger than Adelaide and Australia. And I find I get a lot of inspiration from other businesses just by looking around about what people are doing out there. I tend to even on holidays kind of research the local market, what kind of legal services they're offering in divorce, and really just use any opportunity to sort of bury myself in that local environment and what I could learn and bring back.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's interesting. You've now off backpacking, taking risks, doing all this sort of stuff. Legally blonde, risk taking. Sort of breaking the traditional mold, and then in your professional career. So, has this come from somewhere? Is this a trait you've inherited from your parents or other family, or are you a bit of one out of the box in this?
No, all my family are pretty similar, and we're all entrepreneurial. But I often think back to the journey and sort of why business and why am I putting myself out there and taking these risks, because it's ballsy and it's hard work, as you would know and your listeners would know. But I think back to, so I'm from a family of doctors.
Okay.
And my sister went into medicine. My parents, my family, like brother, cousins, and all sorts of things. Everyone's in the medical field, and I was the first one to go into law. And was told that the things that people say about lawyers that they don't say about doctors that I probably shouldn't share on the air. But what do you want to do that for? It's the doctors that help and heal the community, and it's the lawyers, and lawyers don't do that. And so so from the perspective of how I thought I could make a difference in law, it was very much around the catalyst around why I started my own business and why Resolve. And it was just about, I thought that as lawyers we still had an opportunity to heal the community, like we could help and heal. And I thought that really we could, we were responsible for the vulnerable people going through separation, and we could help them heal in the same way that doctors could help them heal. So it's prompted a lot of the sort of thoughts around what we could do. So reflecting back to the medical profession and using the themes of what like a GP can do for their clients is in the same way I'm thinking what we as lawyers could do for our clients. So
cool. So given that thought process and I've had various experiences with family lawyers with my clients over the years, and there's two very different ways that lawyers can go about dealing with this. One can be a really confrontational way, which can be really nasty and aggressive and damaging to individuals and families and financially, and ultimately, in my experience, the only people that generally win out of that are the lawyers sitting on either side of the fence and the accountants who have to provide all the financial information to do it. So it's generally a lose, lose, lose.
Yeah.
And then there's the method that you've described now, which is more, I guess, about healing, or, a lot more, I'll call it sensitive, in touch with that. Did you find that, given your career and what you wanted to do, that you really had no choice but to go out and do this by yourself, as opposed to stay within what I'll call a traditional legal framework?
100%. I was doing it for a long time in the way that I thought I want, the only way to actually do it properly and support the people that I wanted to support in the way I wanted to support them was to go out and create it, and then create some noise around it and build it into a thing. So that was a real driver for me, because I had lots of conservative lawyers and bosses and people that were very established within the family law space, seniors, saying to me, there's no money in mediation, there's money in litigation, and really, saying it in a, think first around business. And they were doing it with good intentions, like, hey, you're going out on your own, let me give you a tip, there's no money in mediation. And I was really determined to show them that didn't have to be the case, and really just making it all about, it's all very client centric. And I think if we can make it about the clients and their experience and what they need, and very much framed around what their goals are for their life, for the process, for the separation. And what we've done with the business model is really adapt the legal advice to support their goal setting. So we've kind of flipped it around and not made it just about the law, and not egocentric lawyers telling you the law and what your outcome is about and you have no control over it, but more about how can we flip that experience around and get it to be about you having some more control. You don't let it get overtaken by lawyers and expense and litigation just to get you your legal outcome. But let's talk about what your best outcome is, which is and what we say is a combination of legal advice and supporting your well-being and looking at your goals, like what you actually want to achieve. So
that's an interesting dynamic, because I know in our business coaching and our wealth management side of things, it's very much driven around people's goals and helping them get there. It's a very different approach that you describe from especially from a family law perspective, and saying, okay, well, how do we need to end up, or where do we need to end up, which looks like a good outcome for you, and then how can we get there?
Yeah.
Given that approach, do you find that you have certain clients then that you say no to?
We do, but we often find that because of the brand, the way it is, that we attract the right type of client anyway.
Yeah.
So the people that come to us are very much aware of what we stand for, what we'd like to achieve for them. We don't often get people coming in very, very litigation focused. And even if we do, and I often have referrers ring me and say, oh, such and such just wants to go to court. Like, will you do that, or should I just send them somewhere else? And I often say, let me meet them. Let me talk to them.
Yeah.
And half an hour with them, and they don't want to go to court.
Yeah.
They just think that that's what they should say. That's the macho bravo thing to say. And after I've got them talking and really exploring what it is that they genuinely want to achieve and what matters most to them and how can we achieve that, we drop the barriers and then it's a much more sensible outcome-focused discussion.
Yeah.
That's not to say we don't go to court, and I want that to be really clear. We do have a portion of our work that ends up in litigation, but a big part of that is just about respectful litigation, and it doesn't have to be exactly what you described before, which is lawyers who are not thinking broadly around how we achieve a settlement.
Yeah.
They're just thinking about it in terms of legal rights and obligations, and sometimes that's quite different.
Yeah. Given your approach to this, when did the light bulb moment come? When you're in you're in practice working for somebody else, What was there a particular moment or light bulb you said, okay, I can't do it in this framework anymore, and I'm now going to go and do my own thing? Was there any particular trigger for you?
Oh, look, I'd like to say there was a particular case. I often think back, there were just so many, and there were just so many cases where I knew that I could do it differently. And let me tell you, the places I've worked have been quite supportive of trying new things. But at the end of the day, it was you can't make a difference. Well, you can make a difference one person at a time, but to really have a profound impact, I knew I had to create the brand and the motto and the existence of that new way of thinking, and just be brave and do it myself. So it was a combination of a whole lot of different types of clients that were suffering through and really just not having an opportunity to just do it a bit better. So
cool.
No one particular case though.
Yeah, cool. Let's talk about your brand for a second, because if people go onto your website and they'll see all your team there, and you're all dressed in white, and there's a certain image that's out there.
There is.
Talk me through how that came about and what it means and why it's important.
Yeah. So it evolved. It wasn't that we came up with this messaging and branding that it was an all-female, all-white type of situation on purpose. The family law industry is female heavy anyway. So the legal industry is male heavy, but a lot of females go into family law probably because of the emotional impact that it has on you. And so, but I'm a big believer in right person for the right job. So it had nothing to do with male or female. It's just happened that way now. In terms of branding, bright and airy and light, it's all about, well, we want to create a warm space for our clients who are already feeling quite anxious, overwhelmed, a safe space, something. So that's that insofar as the way the website is designed and the messaging, it's all just around looking at not about selling us, it's about thinking about who are you that's reading this and how vulnerable are you. And our clients are generally looking at that website in the middle of the night when families are asleep, and that's the time they get their private time to really sort of do this investigations. And so they're looking at blog posts, and they're looking at what we've said, what we've done, who we are. And we've just wanted to be personable, and you don't often see that in the legal industry. That's a bit more, tough lawyer, macho, we're going to represent you. It's very different from that. It's about, well, this is what you need. So the white came about just because it looked good on camera and good on the website. And then it just turned into something. And then and too many people are talking about it now. And we're getting this, white lady lawyers, and, why aren't you in your corporate uniform today because you're not wearing white and things like that. And now it's become an actual part of our branding that I just love it. So I'm just going to go with it. It's working.
That's cool.
It's something for people to talk about, right?
Yeah, exactly right. So tell me then, in terms of getting that message across or engaging with a consultant that could help you build that brand and that platform, how did you go about finding the right marketing agency or web builders or whatever that could take your vision and turn it into something that was real? Was there a process that you went through? How did you find the right people?
My answer to that is I didn't. And I still haven't.
Okay.
It's a lot of my own research, my own. So my journey around law was I started in workers' comp and hated it and quit and did a marketing degree.
Right.
And thought that was going to be much more fun and engaging, and then realised that it wasn't as glamorous as I was hoping for. So did go back into law. It's always been something that's been interesting to me. I've sought out lots of different advice and support over the years, worked with a couple of different people along the way, and really soaked up information from lots of different people. But it's then just about, I honestly think you're the only one that knows your brand and you're the only one that truly is able to empathize with your clients because you know them intimately.
Yeah.
So you can try to explain that to a marketing agency, and that you can try to get the words across. I just feel like the best, and I've worked with some really good guys, and the latest stuff we're doing is with KWP, and they've been great. But at the end of the day, it's, hey, I'm the one that's coming up with all of this this way of promotion and design because it's it's not that I'm not asking. I'm going around to lots of different people, but I just find I'm sort of melding it all together and then putting my own spin on it.
Now, I just want to, I guess, digress a little bit here, because I always find it interesting how, because you're a mum as well, how you juggle the balance of parenthood and having a young family with being an entrepreneurial woman in business and growing a business. I mean, you've been in the fast movers in South Australia for multiple years for fastest growing businesses. How do you manage that juggle?
Yeah, it's the $1 million question. So early on, I managed it. To be fair, I worked ever since I had my first son 13 years ago. I have worked part-time. So I've done all of this in part-time hours, and then had 13 and 11, and then went and became an accredited specialist in family law. Knew that family law was my space and where I how I had to specialise, and then started Resolve mid that journey. It was a couple of years ago I had a happy surprise, and that kind of flipped things around. So she's 2 now. And what happened was turned to the family and said, this is my time. And hubby got on with it, and so now he's home.
Right.
Which means he does it all. And so my having it all answer is, you need to be supported and having the right type of husband who's prepared to recognise that he had his go, and now I'm having mine, and he's loving it. I don't think he's ever wanting to go back to it.
Not wanting to go back. No, it's interesting. I mean, I haven't been on those conversations. I mean, I've I suppose lucky or my wife said that she always wanted to be a stay-at-home mum. She's back working now, but it's always interesting to see the dynamics of how those conversations play out, and I think you're exactly right. If you don't have the right supporting partner, it almost makes it impossible, male or female, to actually progress as a business owner and entrepreneur without that network of people around you.
100%. Or the something's got to give. So the kids don't get the amount of time with one parent that they can if both parents are working those long hours or both trying to build businesses. It's about where you, and I think I honestly believe you can have it all, but maybe not all at once. So it's about different times. The interesting conversation that my husband and I had is, and why I think it works, is because I've done it. I was part-time while he was working, and I was the one doing the dinners, doing the organisation, the play groups and all the rest of it that you do with the kids. And so really recognise that role when I'm not doing it, and how stressful it can be and how involved it can be. But I think particularly seeing families that are breaking up, and a lot of people have this dynamic, this problem around recognising the importance of that stay-at-home role. And really losing the person that stays at home sort of starts to lose purpose, and then their spouse unfortunately starts to believe that too, and that's where the downward spiral sometimes tends to happen.
Talk to me about why family law. You're specialists in that area. First of all, what led you down that path as opposed to going down? You said you started in workers' comp. Why not go into employment law or industrial law or corporate? Why family law? And as an extension to that, what challenges have you faced not then branching out from a business perspective to go and try and be all things to all people? Because quite often, not just from a family perspective, but people come with a multitude of legal issues that come in. Why
family law? I just think the answer to that is obvious. I can't deal with any other type of law. I find family law is the most personable. I'm a really personable person. I enjoy conversations with people. I enjoy getting to know people intimately. You have to really find out a lot about their life and how they've lived. And I find that really interesting, but I'm also quite empathetic. So I've got a desire to help people and help overcome problems. And I know that is intrinsic, and any lawyer has that need to help people. This is more at an emotional level, and it also helps families. I think the biggest driver for me is the fact that by doing what we're doing and doing it right, that we can actually impact the community in a bigger and a broader sense. A big part of what we want to do is try to have the community believe that divorce doesn't have to be such a negative experience, and it can be quite a life-changing, positive and transformational experience that can really help families as opposed to staying in relationships that are not good for them. So that's why family. And oh my God, what was the second part of your question?
Just, I guess the temptation to go away from core family law in the business and then not try and, somebody comes in with a family law issue, but then they're also a business owner that's got a lease issue that they need to deal with, or there's a commercial dispute that's going on at the same time as they're going through it's very easy to, for a lot of, be integrated practice. Say, okay, well, now I'm going to introduce you to this person who's going to solve that and this. Why just stay focused in just family, and what's been the challenges in not bringing in these other service offerings?
It's really interesting. I've never seen it as a challenge. I've seen it as an almost an obligation that we are going to specialize in this particular area and do it as perfectly as we can. So we take on all types of family law matters, and we don't say no to anything. There's certain family lawyers that won't do binding financial agreements, for example. We consider that if we're going to be specialist in the area, then we do anything to do with family law, and we do it really well. So it was from doing my I become an accredited specialist in family law through the Law Society, and that's, there's only a few in South Australia and in Australia that have got that. And once you've got that specialisation, it's like, well, I know it and I know it well, so I'm going to provide that service. Oh, cool. And I think particularly in family law crosses over so many different industries of law, so there's lots of different areas we could tap into. But in the same way that I think we're specialist in certain areas, there are other lawyers that are specialist in other areas. And I think that's what's helped this create the presence that we've got, is that we're boutique specialist in this particular area. So we're not trying to do anything else. It's almost like a hallmark. Like, we don't try to compete in any other space. It's also helped us get a lot of referrals from other lawyers. So a big part of our work does come from other lawyers because they know we're not in competition with them around anything else. So that has, I noticed, a huge difference moving from a generalist firm where I was once into a specific boutique family law firm, that all my legal referrals opened up because they weren't afraid to lose them. So that's from a business owner's perspective, that's actually really useful.
Because it's the easiest work that you can get. Referrals, somebody saying, well, you just need to go and talk to Rose or the team at Resolve because they're experts in there. How do you then foster those referral relationships? Is there anything particular that you guys do to nurture those, to make sure that there's engagement or ongoing engagement with those referral partners? Yeah,
we have exactly that, a nurture program. I wouldn't say it's prescriptive, but it's expected of all of the team, and particularly me. A big focus on my role is, one of the challenges is how much law you do versus how much business ownership you do. And it's really just about building relationships. But I find it has happened quite organically for me and quite naturally. As I said before, I'm a people person and I love a good party. So anytime there's anything, I just say yes to attending events, yes to going out. And I think during COVID there was a big impact that happened in that, to sort of networking. I think Adelaide's the best place to network. Everyone knows everyone, at least with one degree of separation. So if you're comfortable just getting out there and doing that. But apart from going to events and being there, and genuine. It's a genuine and authentic relationship building. So if we generally like people, they generally like us, and then they start trusting us. But also we do lunch and learns, lots of them around town, just with different law firms, specifically law firms and accounting practices, just to really get them to understand what it is we do, but also how they can help their clients if they've got those little niggly issues, and then when it's time to sort of refer on.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point and a really good observation. And, I did a prior episode with Simone Douglas from Social Media AOK. I don't know whether you know Simone, but she is one of the best networkers that I know. And she said, well, you have to establish your network, but then you have to work your network before you need it. You have to connect with them, and you need to make sure you're being seen and you're providing value in that network, a bit like doing your lunches or educational sessions or whatever they might be, to provide value, so that then that'll ultimately come back. So
no one ever knows when they're going to need a divorce service, and that's another thing. It's like we have to be everywhere all the time.
Yeah,
we're not the type of business that needs or that keeps the same clients going over and over. They finish, and then that's it. So it's nurturing their referral sources, and what we find is we get a lot of work from past clients that are happy with the service and that talk to their friends and things like that. So it's just building bigger and bigger on top of that.
Unless you get Joan Collins as a repeat client.
We've had a couple of them.
She had 7 or 8 or whatever it was. So,
had a couple of double and triple timers.
Very good. Tell me, and I grew up in the Barossa. I grew up in a very traditional family, a very my mum and dad a hardcore Lutheran. There was always this stigma about divorce and people that got divorced. It was sort of like a bit of a dirty secret or whatever. How have you found that that's changed? You've spoken about creating a positive experience for people, getting them to achieve their goals into better situations. How have you found some of those traditional views to where we're living culturally now, and how is that evolving?
Yeah. It's definitely evolving. It's definitely not a dirty word anymore, but it's still, you would be surprised how ashamed that people still feel around it. And I think one thing what we're trying to do is remove that stigma and really see that it's part of, and I'm not going to say part of a healthy relationship, but there are a lot of relationships that are unhealthy that if they labour under that feeling of being divorce is a dirty word and we don't want to do it, are putting themselves in a position and their families in these positions where they're not having their best experience or their best life because they're in this sort of damaged environment or dysfunctional environment. So we still have particularly people with cultural beliefs, not so much religious beliefs. We find that there's certain cultures that are not comfortable with the concept, but again, that's changing with the generational changes, and so we're seeing a lot more people more comfortable in opening up, standing up for themselves.
Do you find from a marketing perspective, and you'd have a really good idea of what your and this might sound wrong, but what your ideal clients look like, how they want to engage. Does it come in different demographic age brackets? Like, does it come like as potentially really young married couples, or then potentially really old married couples that sort of at either end of the spectrum, or is there no there's no rule?
There's no rule, but generally we don't see a lot of young people. We tend to under 40s we don't often see, but it's the 40 to 60 is where the biggest sort of group is. Generally those more so particularly that have got sort of like primary school age kids is where we generally see it for whatever reason, but sometimes with littlies as well, little kids. We did start out having a target on males. And a lot of people think that we're a female-only firm just because we have only females working there. And we're actually almost the opposite, but we have clients of both sex. And we're sort of looking at, I think, a big part. We've got a wellbeing program that fosters the emotional wellbeing of our clients and really making sure that they understand. Cool. And I liked that idea, particularly for the blokes, because they're the ones that definitely need it. They're the ones that never admit they need it and never go and do anything about it. And so, but obviously a lot of the women are the ones that are taking it up. So that's sort of our pressure point at the moment. Yeah, we find that being female allows us to, and blokes like it because we can actually think like their wives. Yeah. So they come in and say, "Oh, what do you think she's thinking? Or how do you think I should handle it?" Because and then we get a lot of women that want the female empowerment. Yeah. And so go getting women, tell me how to do it. So, cool. So that's the mix there.
Yeah. It's that wellbeing program sounds really cool because there's been a mix of business people that I've interviewed for the podcast, and generally most of the people I've interviewed have gone through some sort of trauma of some type, whether it be, I had one recently where he had a family member or a daughter that had an eating disorder. They've been through relationship breakdowns and things like that. And the support networks that they've been able to put around themselves to get them through this is critical. So having that in there for your clients when they're going through such a traumatic experience as divorce is such a valuable, I can imagine, a valuable service that you provide that others don't do. So,
100%. Really cool. It also encourages settlements in a big way because a lot of the litigation that goes on is because people are fighting principle, fighting about it, or really trying to get over their emotional baggage. So they're filled with guilt, they're filled with resentment, or they're filled with anger and bitterness and want to get back at their spouse, and they're doing it in ways that they shouldn't. Yeah. And if they were able to deal with their emotional well-being, get over those roadblocks, communicate better. Yeah. So we talked to them about ways to communicate, things that might find that get them angry and how they can manage those types of conversations better, and making plans for what the future looks like. And if their goals are just get on with it and get out, then it's not in their interest to fight a long, lengthy battle. Yeah. So
I mentioned before, you've been on the, fast movers list for a while, and by the sounds, there's a lot of reasons why you have grown like you have, your branding and being in contact or, connected with what your ideal customers look like, your referral program, your wellbeing program, all these things. COVID impact, I can imagine, probably made a bit of help things where, people are in lockdown or in close quarters that then realised they perhaps didn't like each other as much as they did previously. But aside from those things, what's been some of the other tricks to your growth in the business? Is it
tricks to growth? I probably would just put it down to, I want to say being client-centric. I know we've talked about that before, and I don't know whether that is the answer I'd answer once I've given it a lot of thought. But being client-centric has meant that at every turn you can adjust and pivot and really change what it is you're doing for your clients and how you're providing your service to what they need. And so once you continue to work out what they need at every turn, you get better and better at it. Yeah. And so then you're just excelling more and more at your service, and then people talk, and then they get more, and then it just comes full circle. Yeah. But not taking your you can't focus on one area. It's really got to be the whole suite of, you've really got to keep on top of marketing, keep on top of branding, keep on top of your people. People is the biggest challenge. Really creating a team that believe in your vision. I think that's hugely important. I do a lot of relationship building within the team, a lot of purpose building. So talking to the team about building out their their why, what it is they want to achieve for their life, and how Resolve can fit in with that.
Yep.
And so I have regular mentor meetings with my team where we talk through all of the things that matter particularly to them. It's not just about their KPIs within the business, but how they are tracking for their life goals, and are we meeting those? And I just find that when you deal with your people properly, then they become committed to the business and what we're trying to achieve. So it's not just the business, it's the outcome.
It's that whole engagement. Yeah, it's so important. And especially in a tight labour market, which I think is even going to get tighter, keeping or attracting and then retaining, key people is important. We were speaking earlier that, you're starting to think about what next in terms of how you keep those people and potentially, introducing other equity partners. How's that thought process come about, and how do you think that'll play out in terms of finding the right people to bring in as co-owners with you? How are you navigating professionally through working out how you might do that? Talk us through that.
I'm finding probably that is where the business is going, and in order to retain really good quality people, you need to be able to give them a program to work toward, an incentive to work toward, to really stay. There's one thing to being committed to the business, but it's about really identifying what each of your team members really do want. I think too often entrepreneurial people think that everyone wants to be a business owner, and I think that's a hard gig, right? Anyone that's doing it gets that it might look glamorous, but it's actually a lot of hard work, and so there's not so first of all, picking the right people for it. And then really looking at the balance of what your skills are and what else you've got in other people that you could bring to the party. And a big thing that I struggle with is trying to find people that are so different that we can bring a whole suite of services to the offering. But the biggest thing is get people that are smarter than you in, and support yourself around that. And then just we're sort of building out some programs and starting to now think through what is it that we would want them to individually achieve over certain milestones in order to get their recognition in the way that they want it, and their buy-in. So.
Do your team have targets in terms of work that they need to bring in? Because, I mean, my original business coach there's no point in having a business partner that can't generate work. Otherwise, you've just got a highly paid, business manager. Do you set targets and things like that with the guys to help?
Yeah. Look, we've got really clearly defined KPIs, and they are contrary to belief of law firms, they're not just financial. They are framed around a whole lot of things, including how much are they embodying the Resolve way, and what is that? Are they really? We call it the Resolve way, and it is just the responsible and respectful way to navigate a client's divorce experience and support them in the way that we are sort of prescribing. So how many of those, are you really genuinely engaging in? But then also marketing, like how much are you getting out there? How big is the brand getting? And it doesn't necessarily relate to, it's really hard to track now because we're a brand. It's not my name in lights, it's the brand name. And that's done for a reason, so that we get referrals to the brand because of what we stand for and what we do. That's a big difference from a lot of other law firms and even accounting firms, really. You get it with your attitude. And so we tend to find that it's getting harder and harder to track where the work's coming from. So to say to the team, you need to bring X number of clients in, I don't want to create anything but a team environment. So I'm very conscious of making sure that they don't hold on to referral, or that's my person, or anything like that. Not doing any of that.
Cool.
But it's just in a general way, just seeing how much they are about sort of bringing in the work.
No, that's really cool. How have you found, and you sort of touched on it before, you're out doing networking bits and pieces. How have you found the challenge of going from a practitioner and getting the work, doing the work, then having to go and get the work again and do all that sort of stuff, in terms of your role as a business owner? And has that been challenging to you? Have you enjoyed it? Do you do enough consulting work or client work as you'd like, or too much? How do you juggle that?
It's been a juggle, and it's been an ongoing evolution. And once it's about finding and training people to be to give the service that you would give, and to know how to do that. And that's challenging in and of itself. I've been very particular about who I bring in, and only really, when it comes to lawyers, only recruit lawyers that have had experience as associates in court or experience in high quality specialist firms that can really bring that knowledge. Then the expectation of them completing their masters in family law, their accreditation in family law. So they're just the specialists. So there's no question about that knowledge, and then obviously ability to do the job and be relatable. Balancing that, if you've got those people that you can trust, then it's just, we work in teams. A big thing that might be helpful is every file we work on, there's 2 people on it.
Okay.
And the purpose of that is to ensure that the client's got enough exposure to somebody all the time, so it doesn't matter how busy they are, but also allows for me to have that personal attention to people, but not necessarily be the day-to-day. So it's about keeping your hand in it, and then I do strategy discussions around where it's going, how it's going, is it on track, do I need to jump in, do I need to talk to someone, or have we got it covered, like what. And so there are some files that need to be more like that than others. So slowly that's kind of worked really well, and allowed me to then move more into that CEO role and business management role. And there are weeks that one takes over the other, and you just got to go with it. But I think the worst thing a business owner can do is stay too involved in the work, or vice versa, or get totally out of it and then be so disconnected to their clients. But
is there one you enjoy more than the other?
I'm really enjoying the new role. I feel like it's a new career, right? The new career of the CEO, the leader, the visionary. It's always been sort of, it feels more natural to me. What's really natural to me is working and helping with clients and being personable and supporting them. So do I like one more than the other? Right now I've got a really good balance, so I'm really happy. I don't know.
As your roles evolved now and the business growing, do you have a mentor, a coach? Do you work with an advisory board to help you set strategy? How do you do that? Do you have some processes around that?
Yeah, I don't necessarily have specific processes. I have a mentor I talk to who was in the accounting industry and is no longer. Just as I see him as, and talk to him as like an uncle kind of figure. In terms of strategy, that is, and sort of who next and what, I struggle. And so struggle to find, and I work with a few people here and there and just sort of find that I have different, I don't know, it's hard to say. I'm not totally satisfied with anything I've found to date. So when I look to mentors and advisors, it's more like what's around in terms of podcasts and things like that.
Okay.
But definitely a board of advisors. I turn to my accountant to support that, and I think an accountant is a really important part of your business journey.
Yeah, cool. What about a life motto? Do you have one?
No, I mean, if I had to say one, I'd just say be brave. Like if you, insofar as just, if you don't take risks, especially as an entrepreneur, you're just gonna stalemate. So just try to emphasize, and what's the worst that can happen.
Cool.
But that's life motto.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. It's been a lot of fun.
Okay, thank you.